Key Issues is keeping that hype train rolling for Avengers Infinity War content. I know a lot of you are wondering, Nick, when are you going to cover more comic book outfits like you did in that video that only has 100 views? And whoa, give it time. I'll get there. Also, Key Issues has picked up a lot of new subscribers in the last few weeks here, so if you're new to the channel, please make sure you hit the bell to turn on notifications. That way you can stay up to date on all of our latest content. I try to listen to what people are talking about after Marvel movies end because a lot of people don't know the answers to questions that they have or even where to go to start looking for them. These videos are going to focus more on general information with some deep cuts in there for you to steal and look super knowledgeable in front of your friends. This episode is dedicated to Thor's new weapon, and for those of you who have already seen Infinity War, you know that the majority of the time we see Thor on screen during the film, he's in the process of trying to forge that weapon to help him defeat Thanos. That weapon's name goes on to be known as Stormbreaker. So Thor spends the first, quarter of Infinity War getting his ass kicked and subsequently recovering from an onslaught by Thanos and the Black Order. When he's finally rescued from the vacuum of space by Guardians of the Galaxy, he determines that if he's gonna be able to destroy Thanos, he kinda needs a new hammer. The remainder of his story arc focuses on him restarting the famed dwarven forge of Nidavellir, reigniting the heart of a dying star, and forging Stormbreaker, Thor's replacement for Mjolnir, which was destroyed during Thor Ragnarok by his sister Hela, which was kind of a dick move. But you guys already knew that. You've probably already seen the film. So what about some facts you might not know? Well, how about the fact that Stormbreaker first made its appearance in Thor 339, which also happens to be the first appearance of the character who most frequently wields the enhanced hammer, Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill is a Corbinite alien cyborg, and the first non-Asgardian to wield an enchanted Asgardian weapon after being deemed worthy by Odin. When Odin commissioned Stormbreaker to be built by the dwarves, Eitri the dwarf demanded a price to be paid. He demanded that Odin send someone to best their champion, Throg. Odin sent Sif, who accomplished this goal. She then learned Throg ruled over the dwarves, and her act had freed them from his rule. Eitri then crafted Stormbreaker. Stormbreaker is essentially a copy of Mjolnir in power, albeit with a difference of outward appearance. And while it's never specifically been stated, it's believed that the same type of enchantment on Mjolnir exists on Stormbreaker that prevents it from being used by anybody not deemed worthy. It also has similar abilities to Mjolnir in the sense that it hits incredibly hard, has the power to be recalled to the user, can reflect all forms of physical and energy force, call down elemental attacks like lightning, and grant flight. And the flight thing is kind of a bit confusing to a lot of people, but it's important to explain how it works. Holding the hammer doesn't actually let the user fly. Instead, Thor or Beta Ray Bill throw the hammer towards the destination and then just kind of ride it. They grab the strap and the handle and they fly to their destination, and then to stop, they recall it or they will it to stop moving forward. The last and the newest power, and the biggest differentiator that you see in the movie, is that it has the ability to create a transportation portal. In the film, it's explained that the hammer channels the power of the Bifrost in order to send the user wherever they need to go. No more giant Bifrost temple in Asgard. In fact, I guess there technically really isn't even an Asgard in the MCU anyway. Suitor destroyed that thing pretty good during Ragnarok. When writer Walt Simonson invented Beta Ray Bill and Stormcaller, he adjusted another element of Thor's backstory as well. Prior to this, if Thor and Mjolnir were separated for longer than 60 seconds, Thor would revert back into his alter ego form known as Dr. David Blake. After Beta Ray Bill was introduced, this enchantment was transferred from Mjolnir to Stormbreaker. Thor was trapped in his Asgardian form forever, much to the support of virtually everybody, and Beta Ray Bill, on the other hand, when he is separated, transforms into a smaller, oranger, no-nose having alien dude. Did you say that you wanted me to tell you about something that Stormbreaker did that was completely badass? Okay, well how about cracking Galactus' armor? During the events of Ragnarok, Thor sends Beta Ray Bill back to his home planet of Corbinite. When he arrives, Stormbreaker informs him that Galactus and his herald are there, and while Beta Ray Bill gets kind of the floor wiped with him, he does manage to crack Galactus' armor, which is pretty badass. See, Beta Ray Bill is not really a big fan of Galactus, and during the events of Godkiller, Beta Ray Bill attempted to stop Galactus from devouring worlds. One world, Ethan Prime, would not evacuate their planet. Beta Ray Bill infected all of them with a virus in order to force evacuation and subsequently lost his worthiness to wield Stormbreaker, albeit he did eventually earn it back. Stormbreaker was also temporarily imbued with the powers of the Silver Surfer. When a mad scientist poisoned the great world tree of Yggdrasil, that caused the Asgardians to weaken. The world tree sent poison spiders and bit Beta Ray Bill, but instead of death, Odin and the Silver Surfer managed to merge the power cosmic and the Odin force together, and he came back looking real fresh. It changed his armor, his appearance, and his hammer. After Thor stopped the tree from being poisoned, everything returned to normal, including Stormbreaker. Now, how about some recent events? Going forward, Stormbreaker will be the primary weapon that Thor uses instead of Mjolnir in the comics, starting with his new series beginning this summer. Recently, for the last few years, Thor in the comics has merely been a title reserved for Jane Foster, who's been acting as the main Thor in the Marvel 616 universe, or the main comic book universe. The Thor we all know from comic history and film has instead chosen to go by Odin's son, after losing his worthiness to wield the hammer during the events of Original Sin. Nick Fury, acting in a very Batman-like way, seemed to have a plan to deal with every Avenger that may cross him, and when he came up against Thor, he simply whispered a single phrase into Thor's ear, and Thor was rendered worthy no longer. The phrase that he whispered was that Gorr was right. Gorr refers to the main antagonist of the arcs of Jason Aaron and Isaac Rebuck's comic Thor, God of Thunder. And Gorr was right refers to the fact that gods are all vain and selfish creatures, and that none of them are worthy to wield the power of Thor or Stormbreaker. Gorr is also a super badass villain that you should check out, and that's one of my favorite comic book series. It's really good. It's what first got me into Thor, so definitely check it out. Well, that is about it for movie Thor's New Hammer. I'm sure you were probably expecting more Thor knowledge and facts, but to be honest, the hammer isn't usually his in the comics. I'm sure a few years from now we'll have all sorts of new powers, abilities, and stories to share about this weapon, but for right now, Beta Ray Bill has primarily been the guy associated with this piece of weaponry. I hope you learned a lot from this video, and I implore you to impress your friends with this knowledge, and if you do that and look like a comic book hero, then consider giving our page a like and subscribing. We'd really appreciate it. That is it from Nick here at Key Issues. Thanks again for watching, and remember the motto, comics over everything.